the car now.
What's going on?
What's going on is you're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
Get out the car.
You received an order. Obey it.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out. Back up.
Whoa, hold on.
Daniel.
What's going? Hold on. I don't.
AF4 OCs deployed.
Get out of the car and get on the ground now. You're gonna get it again.
I don't even want to reach my seatbelt.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car.
Nazario heard they're saying he didn't want to reach for his seatbelt because he's afraid if he hit his hands, they might think he was trying to pull out a gun on them. The Army lieutenant was eventually released without being charged. In an incident report from Gutierrez, the officer wrote they decided against charges because they didn't want the stop to affect Nazario's military rank. Really? Nazario's lawyer says the lieutenant was threatened not to report the incident. He didn't want his career destroyed. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam responded in a statement yesterday saying, quote, "The incident in Windsor is disturbing and angered me, and I'm directing the Virginia State Police to conduct an independent investigation." Officials from Windsor, Virginia said the officers failed to follow use of force policies, and Officer Gutierrez has been fired. NBC News has reached out to both officers involved for comment and has not heard back. And Joe, I just want to sort of play this out a little bit. You see, he has his hands out there.
Right.
You and I have talked about this a lot. We've talked with our friends, Eddie Glaude, Gene Robinson, about conversations they've had with their sons. Keep your hands out open so police can see. Always try and make sure that you behave in a way that you don't appear to be a threat because cops are going to think you're a threat. That's the conversation that black men have to have with their black sons. And you see it play out in this video. This man is so afraid to hide his hands because he knows what happens next.
Right, and Lieutenant Nazario, if you look at the entire video, you see that he was fearful for his life.
Fearful to take his seatbelt off.
And actually went to a well-lit area, drove to a well-lit area because he feared what might happen. And he showed his hands, time and again, he showed his hands. The police officers came amped up, screaming, pulling their guns. They lied, of course, in their report saying that this was a felony stop. They lied. It said he didn't have a license plate. It ended up he did have a temporary license plate in his new car, and continued screaming and yelling at him when it was obvious he was a lieutenant in the United States Army. He had done nothing wrong. They had stopped him for no reason, and yet continued to have their guns drawn on him, screaming and threatening him, saying he was going to, quote, ride the lightning, and saying he had every reason to be scared to get out of the car. Wes Moore, I know as a military man, as a black man, as a human being, looking at this video, start to finish, had to be sickening. What do we as a nation take from it? The same week, we are having to look at a trial where Americans are reliving again the scene of a black man lying on the pavement with a knee on his neck for a better part of 9 minutes while his hands are cuffed behind him. All of this happening the same week.
You know, it is absolutely infuriating looking at this video. And it's infuriating because, as you pointed out, it makes so many of us feel like liars. Where if they call it a high-risk traffic stop, but unfortunately in this country, every traffic stop is high risk. Because he did everything.
If you're a black man.
That's right.
If you're a black man. Because he did everything we've ever been asked to do in these kind of situations. Where you realize in situations like that, your resume doesn't matter. Your CV doesn't matter. The fact that you were in uniform doesn't matter. Your vehicle doesn't matter. Your calm demeanor doesn't matter. He calls them sir. It doesn't matter. You still end up in this situation. The fact that you can pull over in a lighted area, it doesn't matter. And this kind of this conduct, it erodes at basic fairness, it erodes at public safety, it erodes on the idea that people feel like this society can be built for everybody. And so when we watch this, an Army lieutenant, a person who, the same way that I did, put his hand on a Bible and swore to protect the integrity and the safety and the future of this country, now watching how he is treated, despite doing everything that he was taught and being asked to do, it makes us feel like liars.
We are liars.
And we have to we have to be able to unpackage that,
Sick
that
and
in
twisted.
this time, that this also cannot just be about what are we doing to take care of these individual situations when these individual situations continue to happen.
Systemic racism.
That if we are not focusing on changing laws and changing policies
And changing
changing
hearts.
recruitment and retaining efforts, if we're not actually having a real holistic conversation about race and policing, if we're not understanding, we watch what's happening in Minnesota right now, and the National Guard just got called in. Here's the reality. The President of the United States has only had to call in the National Guard 12 times in our nation's history. 12 times. 10 of them had to do with race.
Period.
Only twice. Once was because of a postal worker strike in New York. The other time was because of looting in St. Croix after a hurricane. Every other time in our nation's history, it had to do with race.
America
And so
is
if we
sick
cannot combat this, and if we
with
cannot
the
understand
cancer
this joint
of
nature
racism.
of what's happening between policing and race, and why a video like this is so infuriating, then we're not going to be able to get to not just a root cause, but any form of a collective better place.
What